What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Mikey McNuggets coming at you on an Ultimate Cavaliers show. We said we're going to do a post-game show, but the Cavs are up 30 points with 6 minutes left. So we said, why wait for the ass-kicking to finish? We can get right into it, discuss the important things, and play a little game afterwards. No Jason Lloyd tonight, but I got my friend Nikki Goyle from Clutch Points out in Los Angeles joining today to talk a little Cavs. And Nikki, thank you first off for joining us. It's been a long time coming to get you on the show. And B, we just saw the Cleveland Cavaliers destroy one of the best defenses in basketball and make the worst offense in basketball look significantly worse than they even do on a typical night. So an absolute masterclass here from Kenny Atkinson and company.
Beautiful game. Beautiful game. I'm happy to start early and this early, just like how the Cavs did tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they come out in the first quarter. This was a game Wendell Carter Jr., the Magic center, said not once but twice during shoot-around, we're approaching as a must-win. We have to get our mojo back. They've fallen sub 500. They've fallen into play-in territory. They are out of the top 6 seeds, surpassed by J.B. Bickerstaff and the Detroit Pistons for what it's worth. They know what this game meant to them. And frankly, Darius Garland or not, they had no answers for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And we were just saying before we went on air, Nikki, since the acquisition of DeAndre Hunter, dating back to that Minnesota game prior to the All-Star break, the Cavs have put belt to ass on 4 of the 5 opponents they've played and continue to establish themselves as not just a premier team in the NBA, but one of those top 3 NBA title contenders in any order you want to put them with, alongside Boston and OKC.
Yeah, man. I mean, how often do you make a trade and you go immediately undefeated after that trade and you perform even at a higher level with that trade, with that new piece, through injuries, through random ups and downs, through different challenges? It is like Kenny said at the beginning of the year, he didn't even expect it to go this well. And I don't know if he expected to be hitting post All-Star this well, given how the last couple post All-Star slumps have hit us. So kind of crazy what we're witnessing right now.
I want to steal a line that you texted me tonight, but you said they went from undersized to undefeated with DeAndre Hunter. And I think that's a really good way of putting it. And they're not going to run the table. They're not going to go 24-0 to finish the regular season here. But this was a team that had a severe lack of size on the perimeter. You had Evan Mobley and you had Jared Allen down low. But outside of that, George Niang and when healthy, Dean Wade. And that was a giant if and a big when, because he did miss a pretty big chunk of change there. The Cavs just didn't have some answers for certain matchups. And now with DeAndre Hunter, who tonight I thought it was important, Nikki. I know DG was out, so it changed a little bit of the rotations, but do you notice how quickly Kenny put DeAndre in at the 4 for Evan Mobley to kind of give them the spacing while not sacrificing size to guard Paolo and Franz Wagner? He's fit in so seamlessly. And even in my wildest expectations of this is exactly what Cleveland needs in terms of archetype, in terms of skill set, in terms of player, entering the fray, it's gone even better than we could have expected. And shake the bobblehead. Kobe Altman, like, I gave him a 10 out of 10 when it happened. I think he deserves like a 27 out of 10 now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Kenny Atkinson, he's like Santa Claus's dreams. You get this guy a new toy and he finds all kinds of things to do with it. It's incredible what he's doing with DeAndre Hunter. Every single game, it feels like he brings him in earlier to do even more incredible things, to make up for more, weaknesses that we saw before the trade. And now, after this DeAndre Hunter trade, it feels like the worst defender on the Cavs is Ty Jerome, who is 6'5" and leads the league in steals off the bench. So it's amazing how we've turned weaknesses into strengths. It's amazing to see the I think DeAndre Hunter is shooting over 50% as a Cavalier so far in 6 games. So no, it's incredible. It's a testament to everybody. Kobe, Kenny, the roster for fitting in, the new guy for fitting in. It's incredible what we're seeing, belt to ass.
Yeah, Hunter with 4 threes again today. Between Hunter and Jerome, the 2 Virginia Cavaliers, off the bench they combined for 37 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, 8 for 11 from 3. No, excuse me. No, I'm right. 8 of 11. My math was right. And they made 12 of their 20 shots. So they were 60% from the floor. They were 8 of 11, which my math doesn't do well, but that's over 75%, with 4 rebounds and 5 assists. You cannot ask for anything more. And one of the underrated parts of the acquisition of DeAndre Hunter, and shout out to Justin Rowan and Carter in the Chase Down Pod for bringing this up yesterday. And I had tried to find the proper way to put this into words. They did a much better job than I did. But Hunter has now replaced the Niang minutes at power forward as their backup big, and also the Karis LeVert minutes at small forward. So he has just absorbed those two parts of the rotation into one player, and that's allowed Ty Jerome to absorb all the Karis LeVert shooting guard minutes on top of the minutes he was already playing. So despite the fact that you gave up two guys who were in your rotation to replace with one guy, because of the flexibility and lineup versatility Hunter brings and the way that Ty Jerome's playing at this current stage, you lost really no depth. And now with Javonte Green and Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade healthy and Max Strus knocking down 5 threes tonight, it's a plethora of options for Kenny Atkinson, regardless of opponent. And now it's like pick your poison. The worst players the Cavs are putting out on the court at any given night, Nikki, have an above average skill. So even if they're overall, I'm going to use Okoro, for example. I'm not trying to single him out, but Isaac Okoro is a solid player, but he's not great by any means, but he's a really good point of attack defender. So the worst guys the Cavs are putting on the court still have a plus skill to add to the equation. And it's showing in games like this where the Cavs from start to finish dominated, and no one had a game that you said, holy crap, this guy went off, we won because of this guy. It's a collection of talent that is all fitting together like a perfect puzzle right now.
That's the best part, Mikey, is that not only did DeAndre Hunter fill a need, he also makes the rest of the roster very valuable. There are more lineups now where you can run Okoro. There are more lineups where you can run undersized guards because you have this guy who can, play on the perimeter, who can take mismatches. One of my favorite things about DeAndre Hunter, I didn't know he had this in his bag, but I'm seeing like a little Evan Mobley in him. I'm seeing like a little like really good instincts on weak side help and rebounding and the way he's attacking. And he's in good positions and he's very aggressive about it. And I didn't know he would be that bought in and get to that early, but that's what's allowed him. Like every single time we've seen, against the Boston game when we lost, when we had Niang, and how Niang struggled to close out or struggled to meet people at the rim. DeAndre Hunter is filling those voids. Every single time we've seen him play now, it's not just the shot making, it's not just the point of attack defense. He's showing new things every time, and he's making the rest of the roster more valuable and giving Kenny a lot more lineup flexibility. It's really fun to watch. It's really cool.
And he's a better shot creator than I think a lot of us expected. It's funny when you talk about DeAndre Hunter, he comes from a Tony Bennett system. So him and Ty Jerome, they come from Virginia, where if you don't play defense, you don't play at Virginia. They won a national championship by being the best defensive team in the country. Hunter was the ACC Defensive Player of the year they won the championship. All the metrics from his time in Atlanta indicated he wasn't a great help side defender. And you see the Hawks play in nationally televised games, but it's not like we're watching the Hawks night in and night out. So you kind of have to go off what some of these big picture numbers tell you. And it's funny that when you take a player out of a not winning situation and you put him in a championship caliber situation, the effort on defense just naturally gets ramped up by the players you're playing with and the level of intensity they're playing with on defense. And all of a sudden, DeAndre Hunter is transformed back into the all-NBA characteristic or caliber of player we thought he could be when he entered the league. Defense is so much about effort, and it's so much about knowing where to be and when to be there, as opposed to, oh, I'm more laterally quick than this guy, or I have better instincts. A lot of it's just effort. Nice. And you're seeing DeAndre put in the effort now to maximize his defensive abilities, and that's going to pay huge dividends in the playoffs, and hopefully on Friday when we see for the first time the newly minted Cavaliers with DeAndre Hunter against the defending champion Boston Celtics.
This is no surprise. Kenny Atkinson's done this all season. He's gotten more out of this entire roster, out of every individual, than we've seen in years prior. He's gotten more leadership out of Donovan Mitchell. He's gotten more defense out of Darius Garland. He's gotten more put the ball on the floor and make a play out of Sam Merrill. Like, it's not much of a surprise that he's gotten more at DeAndre Hunter than we've seen statistically or even nationally on all stages. So Kenny Atkinson, what could we say? Coach of the year.
He's minus 700 on FanDuel to win Coach of the Year. The Cavs just grabbed the rebound. They will officially win this game 122-82, a 40-point victory on national television against the team that said this is a must win. Coming into this game, Nikki, the Magic had the worst offense in basketball. They were averaging 104 points per game. They scored 82 tonight, 22 points below their season average, and they already were a terrible offense. We talk about the Cavs and their offense, which is setting historic rates in terms of shooting and efficiency. But how about this Cavaliers defense? They talked about it a couple weeks ago, wanting to climb into that top 5. They weren't satisfied with being 9th or 8th, depending on the night, in terms of defensive metrics. A performance like this will certainly help catapult them closer and closer to the top 5, which I do believe by the end of the season, they have a very good shot of cracking into.
By every metric, when you look for contenders, when you look for top 5, top 10 defenses, top 5, top 10 offenses, the 40-20 rule, this trade, the current makeup of the team, the way they're playing, the momentum they have going into this last stint, they're checking every single box, every single metric. This is a contender. We know that. We know this. We're seeing it every day now. And I mean, this is what, the 3rd national TV game in a row? We got a 4th one in a row on Friday. It's a lot of fun stuff. It's a lot of public belt to ass.
You look at the box score here. Banchero for Orlando had 26 points, but he took 22 shots, was just 9 of 22 from the floor and 1 of 7 from 3. Franz Wagner had 19 points on 21 shots. He was 9 of 21, 1 for 3 from 3, did not get to the free throw line. As a team, the Cavs held Orlando to 36.7% from the floor. They were 5 of 28 from 3 for 17.9%. 5 of 28. Max Strus by himself made 5 threes tonight. Max Strus had as many points from beyond the three-point arc as the entire Orlando Magic team did. A total defensive effort. And Nikki, I want to ask you this real quick because we're going to talk about this tomorrow on UCSS. So I kind of want to save my thoughts for when we're on the show tomorrow. But the starting lineup, Hunter, Strus, Dean Wade, you have all these options. I've kind of maintained the mindset of the starting 5, it is what it is. It's more important to close than who you start with. But there's been a lot of hate on Max Strus as of late for being in the starting lineup because he's been a little inconsistent with this three-point shot. You saw what he can do tonight, Nikki, when he's hitting threes at the level he is. Are you as caught up as some on who should be the starting small forward? And if you're not, just give me your rundown on what you think Max brings to the table in that regard.
I agree with you that maybe it matters a little bit less than most situations because Kenny Atkinson subs more than any other coach in the NBA. So it is going to be more who you finish with over who you start with. Also, just the depth of this team, the options that you mentioned, I think makes it matter a little bit less. Part of the Max hate is also just like how crazy good DeAndre Hunter has been. Like the shooting's been crazy. Obviously, the point of attack defense has been crazy. And the size has been crazy. To me, I think Max's ability as a playmaker, his ability to run pick and roll, DHO sets, his playmaking and chemistry with Mobley and Allen, I think that's a separator. His off-ball movement and cutting creates space that you probably need with a double big lineup. So I actually prefer Max Strus in that starting lineup. And I like the early substitutions that Kenny does get. DeAndre's size also makes more sense to me in the second unit. He plays well with Jerome, plays well with one single big because his size can make up for whatever discrepancies there is. So to me, it's not broken. I wouldn't. It's not broken. Don't fix it. I trust Max in this role a lot. And obviously Kenny has a feel for this team. He's a feel for this roster and who he likes to ride with. He'll throw in Jerome in the fourth quarter with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland if Jerome is rolling, you know? Yeah. So he's not really worried about who's starting. He's worried about who needs to be on the court when it matters. He started Okoro, point guard Okoro, with Donovan Mitchell because he liked the matchup. So he'll go with the matchups at the end of the day. But in terms of like a designated starter, I think I'll go Strus until Hunter takes it away from him. Just if he continues to shoot this well and makes this big of an impact. But I don't think we're losing anything with Max Strus. I think people forget how good he is, and that's the best part about the Cavs. You have him. You also have Hunter. You also have Dean Wade. So it's not a bad problem to have.
No, like I said, I'm going to save the majority of my thoughts, but I also think this is an important component. And maybe this comes from a basketball player background, but I feel like in every team, when you have 5 guys on the court, at least one of the 5 guys has to be a wild card. Like, not just as a player, but kind of as a personality. And I'm not saying this in terms of Max as a person, because Max seems like a really good person. He had his charity event a couple of weeks ago, does a lot of good things in the community. But he's kind of a hothead, and at any given moment, he could snap and lose his effing mind and go crazy. And I feel like we've seen that happen to Jarrett once, basically, in the last 5 years. And Evan, I don't think, has ever had that moment. And Donovan and Darius are cool, calm, and collected, which is the best thing you want your guards to have. You kind of need that one wild card. And DeAndre Hunter, for as good as he is, and I don't know him that well. He's only been in Cleveland for a couple of weeks. We haven't had any one-on-one conversations yet. Super calm, very mellow, very even keel personality. I feel like you kind of need that asshole, for lack of a better word, just to give the team a little bit of energy, funk, and fight to balance out the other part of it. So,
Facts.
I
agree. He reminds me a little bit of J.R. Smith. He's got that irrational confidence. He's got that edge to him. He'll go to war for you. He'll yell at the refs for you. You do need that dog, especially when we get into the dog days against Boston in the playoffs or against any, scrapping team. You need a guy who's ready to scrap and a guy who's like, he's been here for a couple years now. This team knows that he has their back. They got his back. These little intangibles matter. That locker room energy matters. I think Max does bring more of that to the starting lineup.
And certain matchups, if you're playing Boston and you want to go with more size, I get it. I totally understand switching, but I stand by the fact that every team, and I got to figure out a way to say this more appropriately on UCSS tomorrow, but every team needs that one wild card, and I'll think of a better way to phrase it, but they need that one
wild card
starting lineup. So
yeah,
two more things for the game, Nikki, and then we'll talk about some big picture stuff, and we're going to play a little game that you came up with to wrap it up here. But another 20-point night from Ty Jerome. Anytime Darius is out, it feels like the Cavs don't lose anything from an offensive standpoint because Ty takes on a bigger role and a more focal point in what the Cavs want to do, and he continues to hit shots at an unparalleled level. I tweeted this out the other day, but B-Ball Index gives percentiles. So where you rank 1 at the lowest, 100 at the highest among other players at your position in a million different categories. And this season, Ty Jerome is in the 100th percentile. So you can't be better in terms of shot making, and the 3rd percentile in shot quality. So I emailed the guy who runs B-Ball Index and said, can you just help explain to me how you differentiate a good shot versus a bad shot? Because I talked to Ty and he said, for me, floaters are a good shot, but in your description, you don't usually count floaters as good shots. And he gave me a whole explanation, but I wanted to just point this one thing out because we don't have to get into the minutia. They've been doing this for a dozen years now, Nikki. Ty Jerome is having the 22nd best season over the last 12 years of any player in the league in terms of the differentiation between their shot making and their shot quality. He's in the same realm with guys like Kevin Durant and Victor Wembanyama and DeMar DeRozan, who's a mid-range assassin, and some other guys who you look at on that list and say, that makes sense. Jalen Brunson's also in that conversation. And Ty Jerome is the only outlier like that on the entire list. It is incredible what he's doing on a night-to-night basis. Every single night now, it seems like he has a 3-4 minute stretch where he's the best player on the court. And at this point, you would assume the other teams know that. And they don't change their defense. They still guard him the same way. And it baffles me. And I'm so happy that we are living in the Ty Jerome era here in Cleveland, Nikki. It's an incredible time to be alive.
It's his world. We're living in it. I call him Immediate Buckets. That's my new nickname for him. That's Ty Jerome. You put him in the game. That's what he does. You just add water. This guy, what's great about him, he came out of college. He was like a pick and roll maestro. So I feel like if you switch up the coverages on him, he's going to punish you in other ways. He knows how to make that pocket pass. He knows how to make the skip pass. He's 6'5", and that floater he can make through contact. So it's hard to counter him. And he just has a lot of ways to punish you, even if you do some things different. And his confidence is crazy. What was so cool about this game, I was disappointed Darius couldn't play, but him not playing even adds to your point here. The last time the Cavs were in Orlando, Donovan Mitchell had to score 50. He was the only Cavalier to score in the 4th quarter, and we lost that game. And it felt like the Cavs supporting cast was helpless. Today, 11 points from Donovan Mitchell. Didn't even need to really play in the 4th quarter. And Ty Jerome did his thing. And just like that's this on every level of this team. From top to bottom of the roster, everybody got better, but guys like Ty Jerome, it's a breath of fresh air. It can't be understated how different this team is compared to last year, and he's like one of these shining examples of that. And let's not forget it, $2.5 million. You can also argue he's the best contract in the NBA right now. So I don't know. There's not enough things that you can say about Ty Jerome.
He's the best non-rookie contract in the NBA. Wemby's on a rookie contract, so Wemby's the best contract. But I have made that point before that he is the best non-rookie contract in basketball. We've got a ton of questions the last couple of days about the Cavs' ability to re-sign Ty Jerome. I'll say it again. I said it on Twitter. I think there's a good chance. It's not a guarantee, but I do think it is a pretty high likelihood that he returns to Cleveland because there are not many teams with cap space and starting positions that could allure Ty away from Cleveland. And frankly, DeAndre Hunter's his best friend. Kobe Altman has loved him forever. Kenny has unlocked him. And Donovan, Darius, and Ty are like this. You're in a championship winning situation. The difference in money that can be offered, unless some team wants to crazy overpay, and Brooklyn's really the only team with that kind of cap space and the starting position open, I have a good feelings coming back. And I would highly recommend going to check out Bob Schmidt of Fear the Fro Pod did a video breakdown of the money on it. And Luca from Real Cavs Fans on the Real Cavs Fans Forum did a whole article on it. So if you want to watch a video, go check out Fear the Fro. If you want to read it, go check out Real Cavs Fans Forum. They both very similar information, but two different ways to digest it, really high quality stuff. And they have the exact numbers if you want to kind of parse it down. But at this point, Nikki, he has to be priority number one in the offseason, right? Like, I know the Cavs can only offer so much, but whatever the max they can offer is, I feel like they have to offer that to Ty Jerome.
We do have the bird rights, so that helps. But you're right. Hypothetically, another team could offer him more. I don't know, man. The only thing that could ruin this is obviously Ty Jerome himself. He's playing at that level to a point where maybe a team like Brooklyn or Washington could get really crazy and maybe say, yeah, let's throw 20 at him or something. But I hope not. And you're right. I think the odds are in our favor here, especially with the way Kobe set up things around him with Hunter, with Mitchell. And, winning does a lot. The guy is a lifelong Cavalier, it would seem. He's a born winner, especially if he can win it this year. So winning can do a lot as well to keep him there in Cleveland.
Last thing before we play your game, Nikki, we saw the Cavs destroy the Knicks on Friday. They just beat the Magic by 40. The Pacers have given them a little bit of trouble in the past, but nothing I think that anyone is too concerned about. They have Boston on Friday. Does the East run through Cleveland right now, or does that and I spelt through wrong in the super, so my bad. I can't change it live, so just ignore that. But does the East run through Cleveland, or is that still Boston's claim until we have a playoff rematch between the two?
Listen, first of all, being an underdog is not bad. We should wear it as a badge of honor. The East does run through Boston, and we should embrace that. That's a good thing. We need to prove it in the playoffs, and that's a good thing that we have to prove. Having home court advantage going into that test is going to be great for us. We have to see it down there. There's a lot of guys here who, if we're lucky enough to face Boston and get to that point, it's going to be Donovan Mitchell's first conference finals, Darius Garland's, basically almost his entire roster apart from like Max Strus. So, and Tristan, right? So, that's it's theirs to lose. But I feel really good about the Cavs in a 7-game series against the Celtics. And actually, it does a good segue to the game as well today.
Well, we'll get to that. Let me just give my one thought on that. Then we'll get to the game here, which, by the way, Nikki has come up with the game. He said, hey, what do you want to do after the game reaction? I said, I'll send you a couple of topics. He goes, nah, I got a game. Let's try that instead. So I'm very excited for once someone's producing for me. This is quite a change of pace here. But I agree with what he said. The East runs through the king until the king has been dethroned. And the Cavs absolutely 1,000% can dethrone the Celtics this season. But until that happens, they are still the team to beat, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA. If they had fallen off and we're in the 6th seed right now and we're 31-26, maybe we could have a different discussion. But they are just a few games back from Cleveland, and they have clearly not prioritized the regular season. We've seen them blow a couple leads. They are coming off not only a championship run, but a bunch of their guys played in the Olympics, or at least were on the team. Tatum did not play a ton, but you get what I'm saying. So they are not prioritizing the regular season. They are waiting for the playoffs, and that's why I can't wait for Friday, because we have seen a few times this year where Boston, in certain situations, has amped it up and played at a playoff intensity. We saw it happen in the first game when these two teams met in the in-season tournament. We saw it the second time these teams met when Donovan went nuclear in the fourth quarter and Tatum tried to pick on Darius, and Darius said, not today, my friend. And then we saw it again in the third matchup when Boston got the best of Cleveland here in Cleveland. And now I can't wait to see how Game 4 pans out, because Boston has a chance to win this in-season series 3-1 in 4 games that were highly competitive. And you can say 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed. None of that matters. If Boston wins the regular season series 3-1, they'll feel pretty confident coming into Cleveland or going into that matchup. And for Cleveland, I do think Friday's game matters. Just from a confidence standpoint, they know they can beat Boston. It's not a can we, but we got to go beat this team in Boston and make a statement to the league that, sure, they may be the defending champs, but that was last season. This season, it is ours. And I can't wait. Like, why do we have to wait 2 days? Why do we have to wait 2 days? Why isn't this game tomorrow night? I mean, I know these guys need rest, but and we need Darius to get healthy, but I'm ready. Like, I'm ready for this kind of basketball. We watched in the last 5 games, one competitive game from the Cavs because they have been so good. And as much fun as blowouts are, I want to see this team in some playoff scenarios, and I really hope Friday comes down to that. Nikki, set up this game here. Let's play a little clutch point special here to wrap up this post-game stream.
All right. All eyes on Boston. Everybody wants to know. Listen, this Friday, we're going to face this team. And regardless of the outcome, we want to see a competitive game. We want to see real reason to believe that when we run into this team, hopefully down the road, we can take them, right? So, Mikey, rapid fire, 3 rounds, first round. Who makes a bigger impact in a 7-game series? First round, Evan Mobley or Kristaps Porzingis?
Mobley. It has to be Mobley. If the Cavs are going to beat the Celtics, Evan Mobley has to not only play well, but play awesome. Play at the level he played in last year's postseason against the Boston Celtics, where he kind of showed us this first glimpse of the full-on change. I understand Porzingis is critical to how the Celtics run their offense, but if Evan Mobley does not play well, the Cavaliers cannot beat Boston. We saw it when they played here just a couple weeks ago. It was Evan's worst game of the season. He was just coming back from a calf injury. I don't think I'm looking anything into that, but you can see when he doesn't play well, the Cavs actually struggle to score because their shot selection becomes so perimeter oriented that if Evan is not either the Cavs' best or second best player, they do not have a chance to win a playoff series. If Porzingis isn't Boston's first or second best player, they'll be just fine with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So my answer is Evan Mobley.
There we go. All right. Next round. Who will make a bigger impact in the 7-game series? Donovan Mitchell or Jason Tatum? I'll make a comment on this real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of people compare these two players. I think a lot of them see all of them as last season on the fringe of top 10 players. After Tatum won the chip, he kind of secured a spot for himself in top 10. And this year, honestly, has looked almost like a top 5. Yeah. And a lot of people, when they look at them head to head in a vacuum, they're like, oh, Tatum's the bigger guy, the better defender, puts up more stats, all that. But when I look at them, they're actually very similar in terms of who they are to their team. They're both like the main engine for their team's offenses. So I think they're actually a lot more comparable than people realize. And I'm curious who you think excels more in that role and who you would trust in that 7-game series.
I'm going to have to say Tatum. And it's not a knock on Donovan, but if it's the question of who's more important and makes a bigger impact in a 7-game series, Tatum's the Celtics' best rebounder. He's a more versatile defender. And in the fourth quarter, both teams go to that guy as the guy that you need to trust to get a quality look down the stretch. And I think in that particular facet of it, I like Donovan's ability to get good looks more than I like Tatum's. However, when you factor in the defense, the rebounding, how much of a playmaker Tatum's become, I think Tatum has to be awesome for the Celtics to win. We've seen games, and tonight wasn't a good example, but we've seen games where Donovan's been differential down the stretch and let Darius and Evan and Karras at times be kind of the fight, Ty Jerome at times be the focal point, which is a testament to how deep and talented the Cavs are. I think I would take Tatum in this, but if you wanted to argue Donovan, I would have no argument against it. I think it's real close, but I would give the slight edge there to Jason Tatum.
It's funny because Donovan, you could argue, has overall been more of a playoff riser. But it's interesting you say that. Do you believe that Donovan Mitchell doesn't necessarily need to be the best player in the series for the Cavs to beat the Celtics?
On the Cavs or overall?
If the Cavs are going to beat the Celtics in the playoffs, does Donovan Mitchell need to be the best player in that series, which would probably imply that he's better than Tatum in that series?
I don't know. I think if Mobley reaches a level that we've seen the last couple of games and sustains that, I think the Cavs can win if Evan Mobley's their best player. I've said for 2 years now, for the Cavs to win a championship, Evan Mobley has to be their best player. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stand on my ground. And I just think it's because what he does from a mismatch standpoint, as good as Donovan is, and Donovan is going to be a first-team All-NBA guard this season. He should be higher in the MVP discussions than he is, even though SGA is running away with it. And Donovan's not close to SGA and Jokic. He should be in the top 5.
Yeah.
Evan Mobley, when he is at his peak, is a matchup nightmare for everybody. Donovan, you can find ways to disrupt Donovan. When Evan's cooking, and making threes and shooting consistently and taking guys off the dribble and Euro stepping Jaren Jackson Jr. and finishing with the left hand reverse, there's simply nothing you can do to stop that. So I think for the Cavs to win a championship, it's going to have to be even Evan Mobley as their best player, or Evan Donovan 1A, 1B. But there can't be a significant gap between the two.
I see the logic, especially because we know what the Celtics are going to do. They're going to switch everything. They're going to take things away from Donovan, away from Darius, and they're going to leave guys like Drew Holiday and Derek White on Mobley. And it's going to be on him to kill those matchups. Yeah. So I totally see where you're coming from. I will think
close.
this.
It's close.
It's close. It's close. I'm a sucker for a story. So I really think about the legacy thing here. I think about Donovan Mitchell and how he's spent years trying to get over the hump. And I can just see him seeing Tatum in a 7-game series and wanting to kill him every single time. So that's what I'm hoping on, but I guess we'll see. Last round. Ty Jerome or Peyton Pritchard in a 7-game series, who makes the bigger impact?
It's not close. It has to be Ty Jerome. It has to be.
Really? What if Peyton Pritchard hits a half-court buzzer beater every single game, twice a game?
I don't care. Like, listen, this is not taking anything away from Peyton Pritchard, who's awesome. And if you don't watch the Celtics, other than when they play the Cavaliers, you are missing an incredible season from a guy that looks like he should be playing with me at the Cleveland Heights Rec Center and not in the NBA. This dude is so skilled and talented. And some of the stuff he does when he plays more than 25 minutes, he's averaging 17 points a game. Like the dude can play. But for the Cavs to win a championship and to beat the Celtics, so who's going to be more important in a 7-game series? They're going to need contributions up and down the board. And I don't think Ty Jerome's going to have to score 20 points. But there are going to be stretches during the game where either Donovan or Darius or Evan or whoever, DeAndre in this case, Max Strus, go a little cold. We saw it at the end of the second quarter tonight against Orlando. You and I were texting. I was like, are we going to go live in the middle of the third quarter? Like, this is over. And then they hit a cold stretch. Orlando went on what felt like a 50-3 run and cut the lead to 14 at half. In a playoff series, you can't let those stretches go for too long. And that's where I think a guy like Ty Jerome is so critical for the Cavaliers, because if he continues to play as he has all season, and I have no reason, no indication to believe that will change by the playoffs, there are going to be certain situations where the Cavs are going to run their offense, Boston's going to defend it, and Ty Jerome's going to get the ball in an ISO situation or a pick and roll situation with 8 seconds on the shot clock and be forced to make something happen. And 97 out of 100 times this season, when Ty Jerome's been in that situation, Nikki, it has ended with a bucket or an alley-oop or a kick to the corner for an open three. The Cavs are going to need, and let me reemphasize, need Ty Jerome to play 17 to 22 minutes a night in a playoff series against Boston and produce at the level he is right now, so they don't go through any scoring lulls, because we know if you do that against Boston, it could be night-night real quick with how well they shoot the three, especially if it's one of those games where they start hitting threes early in the first quarter and you feel like you're fighting out and shoveling out water from your boat because it's sinking. The Cavs can fight back. And a big reason they can fight back is when they put in their second unit and Ty and DeAndre on the court, they can score with the best teams in the NBA, even if it's not their starting five.
The Cavs are deeper than the Celtics. Ty Jerome is the face of the Cavs depth. 100% agree. Easy choice. It's Ty Jerome. He's that dog. Top 5 floater in the NBA, by the way. You're going to see it. It's going to see it all season long. And that's the game, Mikey. I like your answers, man. Thanks for playing.
Thanks for doing that. Top 5 floater. SGA
top 5 floater.
No. Jerome has to be in that conversation. Let's talk it out. SGA has to be up there. Jokic, is his a floater or a push shot? It's kind of yeah. Are we talking just guards? You want to just go just guards?
Guards, yeah.
I think Darius has a really nice floater. Brunson has to be in there. Brunson does a ton. It's ugly, but he does that little and looks like he farts every time he shoots it. Who else would be in that conversation?
Floater game. I'm
trying to think. SGA is the first one that comes to mind. He's like the immediate.
You know, it's honestly like a little bit of a lost art in today's game too, right? A lot of people are either going all the way to the rim or they're doing the kick, but it's like, you know, how many people are living off of it the way Ty lives off of it? You know, it's like half of his shot profile.
Yeah, he's incredible at it. Real quick, I got a couple comments we're going to read here, Nicky, before we wrap up. But DGG says, McNuggets, please give Kenny the Ty Jerome stats. I promise you, any Ty Jerome stat I have, Kenny Atkinson knows. Trust me, I promise you. I love stats. The Cavs have a team of people who only do statistics and have access to websites and databases that I could only dream of. So trust me, Kenny is well aware of any of these Cavaliers stats. Well, I'm looking for the next comment, Nikki. Tell people where they can find you on Twitter and tell us a little about clutch points real quick.
For sure. You guys can follow me at Mr. Nicky G on Twitter. Talking Cavs with everybody. Love the community there. Follow along. Love the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Clutch Points is a LA-based sports media company. If you guys ever follow Cavs Nation, you can see it on Twitter. But we have over 2.5 million fans on Facebook. That was actually the first fan page that eventually became part of Clutch Points back like 10 years ago when we started it. So we've been a very solid base of Clutch Points actually comes from started in Cleveland, which is really fun. So you can follow us on Clutch Points, follow us on Cavs Nation. That's kind of where we write and produce all our content.
And you can see his Twitter handle is on the screen under his name there, by the way. So if you're trying to find Mr. Nicky G, because it's 2 Ks and an I, little interesting spelling. Real quick, what's the name with this, Nikki? Playoff rotation, your top 8. Is there any question who's in that top 8 right now, or is it the core 4? We'll say Strus, Hunter, Jerome, and Wade. Is that the top 8? And then we could figure out the rest later?
Exactly. And Kenny Atkinson, we trust.
I can't say it better myself. It was a 40-point butt whooping tonight for the Cavaliers, beating the Orlando Magic 122-82. The Cavs now have 2 days off before taking on Boston in Boston on Friday for the final part of their 4-game season series. We will have all your preview content for that game on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show tomorrow and Thursday. Nikki, we appreciate you joining us tonight. It was Cavs and Cognac, a little change of pace from Cavs and Coffee. Follow him on Twitter. Does a great job covering the Cavs, and he likes to argue with people on Twitter. So if you disagree, he will certainly shout back and go back and forth with you there. For Nikki, I'm making nuggets, and we will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.